Let's talk about what actually happens after someone stops drinking. Not the changes to your body, I've talked about that in other videos. In this video, let's talk about the changes in living your life after you get sober. Here's what I got wrong and I think most people get wrong. Sobriety fixes some of the details, certainly. Life is better without constant hangovers and without the threat that if you get pulled over, you won't be going home that night. But the brutal truth quickly becomes obvious to those in early sobriety that almost all of their life remains the same, except without the drinking. This often leads to a misunderstanding that once alcohol is removed, life inevitably becomes smaller, less fun, and less interesting. I know that I felt this way in the beginning, but now I know the opposite is true. I've been sober for 27 years, and I now know that finding a full and joyful life didn't happen because I quit drinking. Because sobriety itself doesn't automatically build a better life. It creates the opportunity to build one. And for someone with a week or two sober, what happens next determines whether that opportunity turns into progress or frustration. I'm Dr. Crowe, and I practiced medicine for 40 years. I dealt with alcoholics every day. And all the while, I struggled with my own drinking. Within just a few weeks of quitting drinking, I realized that I had freedom to live my life. And this created within me a terrible conflict. Because alcohol wasn't just a drink. It was part of a system. It filled the time. It regulated emotion. It marked transitions in the day. And when it disappeared, there was a space left behind. And that space quickly filled with boredom, anxiety, and a sense of emptiness. If you're there, or you've been there, or might sometime find yourself there, this video is for you. Today, I want to talk about the nuts and bolts of effectively filling your time in early recovery. Not as rules, but as foundations. Activities that make sobriety sustainable instead of something you simply endure. The first of those activities is taking care of your body again. Most people underestimate how much physical repair is needed after years of drinking. Alcohol disrupts sleep, nutrition, hormones, and energy regulation, and when people stop drinking, they often expect to feel dramatically better within a few days. When that doesn't happen, they assume something is wrong. Usually, nothing is wrong. The body is just trying to heal, and that takes time. Especially in the beginning, it really helps to focus on 3 things to help that healing process. The first is nutrition. Eating regularly, eating real food, and stabilizing blood sugar sounds simple, but it changes everything. Mood improves, cravings decrease, energy becomes more predictable. Early sobriety is not the time to pursue perfection generally. It's the time to remove extremes. Consistency in nutrition matters more than optimization. A diet rich in those things you know you should eat, proteins, fruits, vegetables, will generally allow the body to recover the chemical balance to allow it to operate optimally. If a person in early recovery wants to take a multivitamin, particularly high in vitamin B, I won't argue with them, but the key is to discipline yourself to eat well and preferably eat on a schedule. It's amazing how much of the day can simply be consumed with the simple task of preparing and consuming meals. Next comes restoring physical movement. Exercise in recovery gets talked about endlessly, and for good reason. Not because it turns you into an athlete, but because it changes brain chemistry in ways that directly support recovery. Movement reduces anxiety. It improves sleep. It creates a means to naturally release the stress that alcohol used to provide artificially. And this doesn't require a gym membership or several hours a day. Walking counts. Short bursts of activity count. The goal is not performance. The goal is reminding your body that it is meant to move forward, not just to recover from the night before. And the third thing to focus on to take care of your body in early sobriety is improving your sleep routine. Notice that I don't say improving your sleep, since it takes many individuals quite some time to settle into getting the restorative sleep that they will eventually enjoy if they stay sober. At the beginning, the focus should be on giving yourself an opportunity to reach that goal. That means assigning yourself a sensible bedtime that allows you to get adequate sleep. Adequate sleep varies between individuals, of course. However, trying for 7 or 8 hours every night is a reasonable starting point. Avoiding stimulants for several hours before bed, as well as limiting screen time for at least an hour before retiring, are useful habits to develop. The key is to create a routine and repeat it until it becomes a habit. In addition to taking care of your physical body, taking care of your mind in early sobriety is equally important and will help you to fill up your day usefully. Systematic intoxication invariably stunts intellectual growth. We don't get drunk and then study new and challenging ideas. But if we are to make our sobriety fulfilling, it helps to expand our world rather than hiding in what we already think we know. I'm not suggesting that every evening must be spent reading James Joyce or technical manuals. It is enough to simply feed the mind with fresh input. What you listen to, read, watch matters. Just as diet affects the body, information affects mood and perception. People in recovery benefit from ideas that expand the possibilities rather than reinforce hopelessness. As we look at the finite hours in the day, taking care of our minds and bodies in these ways will fill a lot of those hours. But some time inevitably remains. To address that reality, I strongly recommend relying upon structure. And what that really translates into is a little work with pen and paper. Specifically, I think that journaling is very useful, especially in early sobriety. And in addition to chronicling your thoughts and activities, writing out tomorrow's schedule can be a very effective way at ensuring that the days are full enough so that no large gaps remain. Having a routine to follow can directly impact success in early sobriety. Many people drank at predictable times. Evening arrives, work ends, and the routine begins. When alcohol disappears, that time can feel strangely empty. And empty time is dangerous in early recovery because the brain remembers what used to happen there. Structure replaces that vulnerability. A planned evening walk, cooking dinner, reading, working on something meaningful. It doesn't matter what the activity is as much as the fact that it exists. The brain begins to associate that time with something new. The good news is that healthy habits reinforce one another. When you eat better, you sleep better. When you sleep better, you think more clearly. And when you think more clearly, better decisions become easier. Of course, the problem with structure is that life happens and adjustments must be made. Inevitably, there will be times within the day that are empty. Here, an important sobriety hack is what I call timed discipline. This involves generating a to-do list that remains on standby. And when an empty moment arises in the day, you set a timer, a half hour to an hour, and address one of the things on that to-do list. Doing the dishes, cleaning the gutters, pulling the weeds, etc. Anything that takes up a small amount of time. The key here is to reduce decision fatigue. Rather than deciding what to do, simply put yourself on autopilot, set the timer, and get going. For many of us, alcohol allowed us to develop the habit of putting things on hold. Projects get delayed, conversations get avoided, the garage stays cluttered, paperwork piles up, and over time, all that unfinished business creates a low-level anxiety that feeds the desire to escape. By addressing small neglected areas in our lives, we do more than just filling up an hour productively. Something else happens. Confidence returns. Not because life has become perfect, but because action has replaced avoidance. Small wins will accumulate. The environment becomes calmer, and a calmer environment makes sobriety easier to maintain. By employing these strategies, new habits are formed, and the number of hours in the day seem to shrink. We reduce the burden of worrying about what to do to pass the time, and instead can begin to have the very good problem of choosing between good options. At this point, we may be tempted to remove other obstacles that are holding us back from becoming who we want to be. Perhaps this is smoking or overeating or some other ultimately self-defeating activity. Alcohol is rarely the only escape mechanism. Excessive screen time, constant news consumption, social media arguments, unhealthy relationships, all of them keep the nervous system activated. When someone removes alcohol but keeps every other stress amplifier in place, the mind still looks for relief. I think that focusing on life after alcohol should be job number one. But certainly, these other obstacles can be targeted as life without drinking becomes more comfortable. But realistically, it takes most people months to years to get to this point. And I encourage those early on this journey not to feel as though they must experience a rebirth that affects every aspect of their lives while they're acclimating to simply not drinking. Early on, sobriety feels like effort. You're resisting something. You're managing urges. But filling up the hours of your day with these activities train your brain to believe that there is a new normal. And as these new habits take hold, sobriety itself begins to feel normal. Then it begins to feel preferable. The clarity inherent in this new way of living becomes enjoyable. You wake up knowing exactly what happened the night before, and you begin to trust your own decisions again. You make commitments and you follow through. And that trust in yourself is one of the most powerful gifts of recovery. And that leads to a larger realization. Your discipline, your curiosity, your energy, those things were never gone. They were just buried under routine intoxication. Putting in the effort to structure your day, to take care of your body, take care of your mind, and having an intentional plan to fill the remaining hours of your day will make becoming a non-drinker more certain. If you're considering embarking on this journey, if you realize that alcohol is taking more from your life than it is giving, then the chances are you've already tried to quit drinking in the past. When you try again, I encourage you to arm yourself with a new set of tools. I've created a 90-day sobriety survival kit whose purpose is to help you change your understanding of your relationship with alcohol and provide a blueprint of practical actions to help you reach the important 90-day milestone where the habit of not drinking has time to effectively grow roots and make it sustainable. I've left a link in the description below, and I hope you'll check it out. And if you're curious about the allure of alcohol, check out this video to discover a new perspective. Thanks for watching. Remember to subscribe, like, and comment below, and I'll see you in the next one.